shining wisdom's light, teaching soul tribe how to see through the night. Ancient scriptures and bloodlines she knows, spreading truth wherever she goes. Soul tribe rising, hear her call, raising vibrations for one and all. Dr. Kia shows the way to a brighter, freer day.
Hi, family. Good evening. This is Dr. Kia Pruitt. Let's briefly talk about Zimbabwe, Iraq, and Vietnam. But before we do that, I just want to tell you all I appreciate you so much for all the prayers and the gifts that you sent me. Let me take the time to thank Chief Mac, Tia Baker, my son Dexter, Ishmael, and Angelo for sending me a gift to my Cash App. I really appreciate you. If you are interested in contributing to my work, then my Cash App is there on the screen at $Mama Kia 13. So let's get right into the news. So much is going on, family, as it relates to the global currency reset and the revaluation of currencies. But before they actually allow that to happen or pull the trigger, they're going to have a lot of false flag events, a lot of real events also that will occur in order to distract the people. However, those of us that are in the know realize that all of these things will occur to keep people's attention elsewhere as we are preparing to release trillions of dollars into the global economy. And we can see that happening right before our eyes. You just have to know where to look. So first, let's take a look at Zimbabwe, because a lot of you are actually invested in the Zimbabwean Zim, and you also have Zimbabwe agro checks. Most recently, Republicans decided that they are considering removing sanctions from Zimbabwe. That is huge because the Zimbabwe, the Great, as it used to be called, has been under sanctions for 2 decades. Some accounts say they've been under restraint or under sanctions for 25 years. So most recently, what occurred is that the United States Republicans proposed a bill that will remove all sanctions from Zimbabwe. I will leave that article in the description section for you on my Rumble channel, on my Facebook page, and on my Twitter page. I'll also put it up on my YouTube channel later. So as you all know, we're still trying to rebuild the YouTube channel. So under the sanctions laws, the Zimbabwe Democracy and Economic Recovery Act of 2001, the United States Secretary of the Treasury votes against any new loans, credits, or debt relief for the Zimbabwean government from international financial institutions. Only the American president can certify waivers if he believes Zimbabwe has made political and economic reforms. So we've always talked about political and economic reforms, how they must be in place in order for a country to become sovereign, in order for all of the sanctions to be removed, and in order for their currencies to revalue. Because once a country becomes sovereign or now has control over its own politics, then it has control over its own money. So we're always looking for economic and political reforms. If the act proposed by Republicans is passed into law, the United States will support Zimbabwe borrowing money now from international bankers such as the World Bank. So if this bill passes, not only will Zimbabwe be able to borrow money from the World Bank, but they will be allowed to conduct business and trade with the world. Because when you're under sanctions, you may not do business with the world. This is great news. This is exciting. So let's keep our eyes on Zimbabwe the Great. We all know that they made an announcement a year ago that they were releasing their first gold coin. Not only that, but in 2018, Zimbabwe actually made a secret agreement with China to allow China to go into the mines and mine the gold, diamonds, silver, and other metals that are in Zimbabwe. So they've been preparing for this for a very long time. Again, I've always told you all that many of these things happen behind the scenes secretively. And this is a part of the secret agreement called the Project Sandman for 209 nations to drop the dollar and return to the gold standard. But how would they do that? They would do that by bringing back or repatriating the gold back from to themselves from the Vatican, and by signing trade deals, and trade agreements with other nations. So this is great for Zimbabwe. Once they become free, they will have to pay the farmers first. But this is not new news to us. We remember that anyway under the National Economic Security and Reformation Act, and the global version of that, the Global Economic Security and Reformation Act. It kind of sounds like the Zimbabwe Democracy and Economic Recovery Act, doesn't it? But under those acts, the farmers had to be paid first before trillions of dollars can be released into the global economy and people start receiving their universal basic income. So this is something that we should keep our eyes on, because once farmers start getting paid, baby, you know that it's already done. So good news for Zimbabwe. If you all have the Zimbabwean Zim, which is actually a government bond, hold on for dear life. Look at the top of that bond note. It says, this is a promise to pay the bearer upon demand. It is not only just a government bond, but it's written on bond paper. And as you all know, word is bond, right? So once they say that they're going to do something, the government is going to do it. It's a promise to pay. All we're waiting for now is for somebody to make the official announcement, and that announcement will actually come from the president. And when you look at the article, it actually says that only the president can make this announcement. Only the president can make very important announcements as it relates to Zimbabwe and other governments. So this is good, family. Keep your eyes again on what's happening over in Zimbabwe so that you can know what's going on in that region of the world. That's not just the southern region of Africa that this is occurring, but all over Africa, you actually see African nations stating and reclaiming their sovereignty. For example, in the regions that were colonized by the French, such as Senegal, Mali, Burkina Faso, Chad, those countries have already kicked out the French military. They've established their own military with the backing of Russia, and they've established their own currency. Not only have they said, okay, we have our own currencies, but we're going to start using our own currencies, our own local currencies backed by gold. What that did to the French economy, though, is that it decimated it. So France is on the decline. In fact, I reported this about a year and a half ago, how 5 of the African nations that were colonized by the French had kicked out the French military and established their own military, and how this was affecting France. And so the whole French Treasury administration or finance administration was forced to step down. They were voted out because people were saying, look, you guys have messed up by allowing yourselves to be kicked out of these regions in Africa, where we were taking advantage of the workers and we were taking away their resources and paying ourselves and leaving the people in Africa destitute, broke, and poverty, in debt poverty. Well, now that rooster, what they say, the chicks have come home, the roost. Now the French government is suffering. And 2 years ago, year and a half ago, when I reported this, I said that the president of France was saying that he wasn't going to step down. He said, I have a whole nother year to go. But the people of France have spoken by voting against the whole finance administration there in France, but also saying, we want you to step down, president. And even though the prime minister of the president, whomever he is, or whatever he called himself, said he wasn't going to step down, the pressure is on. So stay focused on what's going on in Africa. So you have South Africa, now becoming free by sanctions being removed. You have the French colonized African nations that are now reclaiming their sovereignty. And then you have other African nations saying that we're going to have one Africa. We're going to fight for under one flag, they're saying, and we're going to have one currency. We'll see how that happens. But before they get to this one currency, they've all decided to use their local currencies backed by precious metals for trade. And this is something that they were actually encouraged to do by none other than Vladimir Putin of Russia. So I've talked to you all about Project Sandman many times, how that is a secret agreement between 209 nations to, when triggered, drop the dollar and use their own local currencies backed by precious metals for a trade. But they knew that they were going to do this, and we've been announcing this, but they kind of told people to look over here while we do something over there. So what they did, even though they made these secret agreements, was publicly they announced we're talking about BRICS now, Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa, that they would use one unified BRICS currency. So they told the whole world, we're just going to use one unified BRICS currency in order to trade. So don't worry about anybody trying to do anything on their own. But I knew, and some of you all knew because you've been following this news, that actually the secret agreement is that every single nation would use their own local currency for trade. So, President Trump has been saying this for a long time, especially when he was talking about Iraq. Nations will say one thing publicly, but they'll say something else behind the scenes privately. So on the one hand, publicly, Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa had coalesced against the United States Incorporated and the Federal Reserve, and they had agreed to stop trading with the dollar and to use one currency. So they said, and that first currency was the Russian ruble. And that's why the Russian ruble became the strongest performing currency in the world in 2022. But behind the scenes, Vladimir Putin was taken to his platform, going to the BRICS bloc, to the BRICS conferences, and telling all nations, use your own currencies backed by precious metals. This way you can establish your own sovereignty. This is really great news. Although a lot of people in America became worried because BRICS bloc started to grow. It wasn't just Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa. Which nation joined them after they, coalesced against the United States Incorporated? None other than Saudi Arabia. Why was that important? Because what made the United States dollar the world reserve currency was our agreement with Saudi Arabia to protect the Saudi kingdom in exchange for their oil and force all exporting nations to use the dollar getting oil only from Saudi Arabia. And if these nations didn't use the United States dollar to get oil from Saudi Arabia, then United States Incorporated would declare war on those nations. They would not only declare war on those nations, they would fund the war, both sides of the war, mind you, decimate the economies of anybody who was involved in the war, which would then decimate the rate of their currency. Now, unbeknownst to most people, once those currencies of those nations that were sanctioned by war or just had political sanctions put on them, people in the know would go and buy those currencies that had become devalued because of the sanctions, hold on to them, wait till after the war. The United States Incorporated and their government would then go back into those nations, rebuild the infrastructure, which would bring up the economy, boost the economy, bring up the GDP, and then it would also ensure that the currency of that nation was reinstated back to its pre-war value. Those people who bought the currency that was devalued through war and waited now to after the war, where the currency was reinstated back to its pre-war value, would go to the banks with this new rate or reinstated rate and become millionaires and billionaires overnight. Who did this? Presidents of countries, presidents of corporations, bankers, and the so-called elite. Well, now this news is getting out and people like you and me know to hodl or hold on to those currencies. Buy all those countries' currencies that have been devalued through war and sanctions, like Zimbabwe, like Vietnam, like Venezuela, like Iraq. Speaking of Iraq, Iraq is now in the news again. Why? Because Iraq is booming in that Middle Eastern region. Once President Trump went over to the Middle East last summer and brokered, or maybe even the spring and summer, and brokered those trade deals, he brokered trillions of dollars in trade deals between the Middle Eastern region and America and between each other. Well, this established Iraq as a very important nation because after that happened, Iraq implemented a transit system that made Iraq become very, very important in that region. And what they did was they connected their transit system to more than 66 countries, making Iraq the most important transportation area in that region and in the world. So what that did was that made the Iraqi dinar now become in high demand. It boosted the demand for the Iraqi dinar. And if you understand and understand the basic economic principle of supply and demand, you know a high demand leads to a low supply. So if everybody's trying to now get the Iraqi dinar because now they're the transportation hub of the world and the transportation hub of that region, since that country is now connected to 66, more than 66 nations, which means that now goods will be transported more effectively, more efficiently, faster than the high demand for the Iraqi dinar would mean all of these dinar or these Iraqi dollars would now come off of the street. Well, what happens when you have a high demand and a low supply is that now you make the Iraqi dinar more valuable. So the Iraqi dinar is becoming more valuable behind the scenes. The Iraqi dinar is now becoming a little more difficult to get a hold of. And this is just indicative of what's going on in that region. Additionally, we've recently heard that now with the restoration of Babylon in that area, this is drawing tourism to the Iraqi region, because many people say Babylon was actually located in Iraq. So now they're restoring or restructuring that area. And so tourists are coming from all over the world saying, I want to see the biblical Babylon. Do you know what that's going to do for that region? In Iraq, it's going to make it very, very important on the world stage. So you have a transportation system there in Iraq. You have people looking to Iraq with a high demand for the Iraqi dinar. You had the Iraqi government ask for people all over America and billionaires all over the world to invest in their region. You had the Iraqi government to call upon their Iraqi people that are abroad, ask them to come back home and now do business in their own countries. And now you have tourists looking to Iraq, which with all of this happening, you're going to have investors starting to look in the region of Iraq. So keep your eyes on Iraq. A lot of things are happening for those of you who are interested in what happens with that nation and therefore what will happen with their currency. Iraq is now becoming one of the most developed countries in the region. That's another article that just came out recently. This is huge for all of you who have your eyes on Iraq and for all of you that are invested. So let me give you just a brief idea of an article that just came out by Channel 8 English. It says the Iraqi Prime Minister al-Sudani said that Iraq aims to become a gateway for 20% of Asia's trade to Europe through the Grand Fall Port and Development Road projects. He added that the initiative will create 1.5 million jobs and secure 70% self-sufficiency in food, water, and energy through sustainable green measures. Anytime you see words like self-sufficiency, you can equate them to sovereignty, which means you have rule, reign, and control of your own country, rule, reign, and control of your economy, of your political landscape, and of your currency. So with this news saying that Iraq now is becoming a major country in that region, you see that that this is a country that you need to be focused on. And if you are invested in that country, you know that something's about to happen soon. So again, Iraq will become one of the most developed countries in the Middle Eastern region. Whereas before, Iraq was sanctioned, Iraq was full of war, Iraq had a lot of issues with Iran trying to control Iraq, with Israel trying to control Iraq, and it was just a mess. But we were there, our military was there to protect Iraq. Recently, unbeknownst to most people, without any notice, American troops made an announcement by way of the president that we were withdrawing from Iraq. This happened ahead of schedule and suddenly that we decided to withdraw our troops and our equipment from Iraq. This announcement was made about a month or two ago. So with all of these things happening, you can see that the Iraqi dinar is about to revalue, just like the Zimbabwean currency is about to revalue. So family, things are looking up. When? We don't know. We don't know dates. No man knows the day, the time, or the hour, right? When any of this is going to happen. But for those people who do know, they have to have a high clearance, okay? A high government clearance, and they're not allowed to tell. So anybody that's saying, I know the exact date or exact time, they may be leading us on, or they're probably more likely just looking at the events, because this thing is event driven. That makes a little more sense to look at the events, see how things are playing out. And you can make a prediction, but to say that we know the exact time, the exact hour, we're not able to say that, because even people who do know that, they could really be held for treason if they told that information. Most of us don't have high enough clearance, government clearance, to actually know those dates or times, or to even make that announcement. Also in the news is that Vietnam closed 86 million accounts. These were accounts that they can't trace to anybody. They don't know who owned those accounts. They don't know if they're dummy accounts. They don't know if they're accounts of dead people. They were just sitting there. 86 million accounts were closed by Vietnam. And that's causing some concern for some people, because they think, oh my God, the government is just going around closing accounts. When what's actually happening, what looks to be happening, is that Vietnam, just like other nations, they're cleaning up a lot of things that have been going on, because what this is going to do is this is going to eliminate fraud. People have fraudulent accounts, dummy accounts, accounts in their dead relatives' names. They were laundering money through banks. As a matter of fact, this happened in Louisville, Kentucky, where I raised my children, where PNC Bank and the whole complex was shut down and overtaken by the federal government, by the FBI, actually, because they were found to be laundering money, laundering drugs, the PNC, laundering people or trafficking people. So they shut down the whole bank and the whole complex. Same thing's happening in Vietnam, where they're getting rid of 86 million bank accounts, and they started terminating those accounts as of September the 1st. The SBV stated that the deletion of over 86 million bank accounts was considered a system cleanup measure, the article states, and I'll provide that article for you in the description section. So more than 86 million bank accounts that have not been biometrically authenticated or have been frozen for a long time will be deleted starting September 1st, according to this article, in order to prevent fraud and cybercrime. This article came out by Vietnam News, and you can see it at vietnamnews.vn/economy. According to the State Bank of Vietnam, there are currently around 200 million bank accounts in their country. Now, 86 million of them were closed. However, after implementation of biometric authentication requirements, the system has recorded only 113 million personal accounts and more than 711,000 organizational accounts that are still valid. This means that nearly 86 million accounts are inactive, likely due to them being unregistered, forgotten, or even created by malicious parties to facilitate fraudulent activities. What you see is a banking cleanup happening in Vietnam, just like what's happened in America, in the United States of America. It happened in Iraq, it happened in Venezuela, and all across the globe. The SBV stated that the deletion of over 86 million accounts was considered a system cleanup measure. It aims to prevent common fraud schemes recently, such as fake accounts for receiving money, withdrawals from accounts without proper ownership, or money laundering via digital banking channels. I hadn't even read all the article, but I just knew just off the cuff what this was all about. It's expected that the deletion will be carried out by commercial banks starting September 1st, and now we are at September the 20th. So a whole systematic cleanup, banking cleanup, is happening in Vietnam as we speak. Additionally, Vietnam made an announcement that they're going digital. This caused panic amongst some of the people in Vietnam as people started taking to their platforms to say, hey, this is giving the government too much control to digitize our monetary system. We need to be worried that they could do something like the central bank digital currency that was discussed in America. We don't know what's going to happen if we don't have the Vietnamese dong, or the so-called dollars, or their currency, circulating in the hands of the people. So people started panicking. They started putting this information out on their YouTube channels, and some of those videos actually went viral. However, when you have a level head and you know how to look at all the news and vet the information, you can see that the whole world is going digital. President Trump said he's going to make America the digital capital of the world, but the whole world is going digital. All of the currencies are going to be digitized. So I don't know if we should be concerned or not, but I would tell you this will prevent fraud. Okay. Now people can't launder money, buy children, buy drugs with dollars or paper currencies where it's not traceable. Now, anything that you want to do is traceable. So on the one hand, I can see that we'll be concerned that the government will be watching, but on the other hand, our babies will be safe. On the other hand, you can't just do any type of fraudulent activity through using currencies that are not traceable. So what I say is that if you don't trust digitized systems, then for number one, please know we're already digitized. Most things happen anyway with your ATM card or your debit card or your credit card as we speak right now. Anyway, very few people carry cash and very few companies actually accept cash all across the globe. This has been happening for a while, definitely since 2020. Right before 2020, you saw it happening. Now we see banking becoming digitized. Doing business becoming digitized, trade becoming digitized with your digital currencies or digital assets, like um, what they call it cryptocurrencies, but I call it digital assets or digital coins or digital money. If you don't trust it, then please know that at least in America, most states have already passed laws to say that the central bank digital currencies are not permitted. They're unlawful and unconstitutional and treasonous. So when we pass laws to say that they're not lawful, they're not permitted in most states, the central bank digital currency, which was a digitalized currency. It was like a unified currency that was controlled and manipulated by the United States Incorporated. So we've spoken out against that and said that we're not going to have it because it's unlawful. However, we do have a digitized banking system that we've been told is actually being monitored by benevolent systems, benevolent forces, which mean good forces. And this is called the quantum financial system. It is supposed to be transparent, supposed to be free of fraud, supposed to be regulated. So if you don't trust it, just know that in your states, most states pass laws that said that the government cannot do anything to shut off your coins or shut off your bank account or prevent you from making transactions. What they're doing is making sure that when they read your biometrics, that your biometrics authenticate that your account is real, that it's you using that account, and you are being monitored to ensure that any transactions are benevolent or only for your good or for the highest good of humanity. So you can trade food, you can trade services, but you can't trade children. You can't do sex trafficking anymore. You can't trade drugs. Okay. Another thing that I want to bring to your attention, if you don't trust this, is since we're all going digitize, yes, use it, but why not use it for your good? Not only get the goods and services that you need, but buy hard assets, buy real estate, buy businesses, create businesses, buy precious metals like silver and gold or copper or other metals, buy things that hold and maintain their value. That way, when you do that, you can store it somewhere safe where only you know that where it's stored. And if it's a hard asset like a business or like a corporate entity or like real estate, you can put those assets in a trust where you don't control the asset, but the trust, you don't own the asset, but the trust owns the asset and you control the trust. So that's it for now, family. If you're interested in silver and gold, you know where to go. You can go to your local coin shop, okay? Because your local coin shop knows you. And if they don't know you, I would encourage you to establish a relationship with you. You can get delivery on your products right away because you can go right there and buy them. And it's just a good idea to know who they are just in case you need to sell your silver and gold later for whatever new currency we'll be using, because we'll have the option to use different types of so-called currencies or monies. We'll be using silver and gold, number one. Or if you don't use that, you can use digital coins, like, whatever coins are out that are digitized that you can trade online, or you'll be using the new currency backed by gold and silver. And some people say that here in America would be called rainbow currencies. So you'll use a rainbow currency, digital assets, and or silver and gold. So you might decide to buy silver and gold from your local currency shop or local coin shop. Look up coin shop near me. Or you can look up numismatics near me and buy your silver and gold from there. You can get coins, you can get the bigger the bullion, You can also consider getting constitutional silver, which is 90% silver. Those are coins that were meant to be for 1964. And then you never know, you might have some type of situation to come up where you want to exchange your coins for the new currency that's coming out, or you might want to sell it for the new currency so that you can make another transaction. That's a reason why you would want to establish a relationship with your own local coin dealer. Or you can contact our affiliate, Miles Franklin, at 952-929-7006, or send an email to them at info@milesfranklin.com. That's INFO at MILESFRANKLIN.com, and let them know that Dr. Kia Pruitt referred you so you can get the best prices in the industry. Again, that number is 952-929-7006. So that's it for now, family. It has been my great pleasure to serve you. I'm so happy to be here. I'm so happy to be among you all. I am very grateful that you all have stuck with me no matter what. I know it's been a little difficult, especially since I'm not coming on as all of this happening, that it may be a good idea for us to now start focusing on our humanitarian projects and start focusing on our family. So what I'm doing in the background is I'm regenerating my ad accounts. My monetization had been compromised on Meta and YouTube. And so I'm just trying to reclaim what's mine, regenerate my ad account, reestablish my monetization that had been compromised, because it's only fair that I'm compensated for the hard work that I do. So that's it. I love you all so much. I hope you've enjoyed this very brief podcast. Stay tuned for more news later. I love you.
Through her channel, knowledge flows, breaking chains that hold us close, teaching paths to abundance and wealth, guiding others to free themselves. Soul tribe rising, hear her call, raising vibrations for one and all. Dr. Kia shows the way to a brighter, freer day. From currencies to investments divine, she's helping her tribe to realign with wisdom, ancient and new, showing what we all can do. Soul tribe rising, hear her call, raising vibrations for one and all. Dr. Kia shows the way to a brighter, freer day. Soul tribe rising, hear her call, raising vibrations for one and all. Dr. Kia lights the way to a new and brighter day.
That's it, family. I love you. Good night. Take care, family. I love you so much. Have a great night. Make this an amazing weekend, because so much is happening behind the scenes. And soon you'll all be very happy, very wealthy, and very, very secure. Take care. Good night. Peace.